live for our teaching reading exam. Super excited about it. And we are going over, it's not the teaching reading, sorry, it's the 7001. I just did a video right before I went live today for the teaching reading, but we are going to cover the teaching reading in the 7001 today. Brand new test. I'm going to go over everything with you, and we're going to learn, all about the exam. So if you are live, come on in to the chat. Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay. Let me just send you guys a quick message. Hi, good morning. Welcome to the webinar. Awesome. So we are live on Facebook. We are also live on YouTube and Vimeo and everywhere else you get your information. We are going over this brand new test, the 7001, that many of you have to take in order to get certified in your states, respective states. This is new, but the concepts are not. So if you are just remembering or just figuring out that you have to take this exam and you're a little bit scared or upset and wondering what it entails, if you already understand the elementary education landscape, you're going to be fine. I'm going to talk to you about all the components of this exam. So again, come on in and let me know that you guys can hear me and see me okay. I am live on Facebook. Good. Just checking YouTube really quickly. I should be live there as well. And yes, I am. And we are live on Vimeo. All right. So let me go to my chat really quick. It doesn't look like, let's try it again. There we go. Okay. So people are starting to come in. Again, this is going to be the 7001. In the chat, let me know if you are from Kansas, Missouri, or Louisiana, because that is who has adopted this particular exam. So Kansas, Missouri, and Louisiana. Louisiana used to do the 5001, which is fine. If you already have that book, you've already been studying the 5001, it's okay. These tests are very similar. I'm going to show you all the different ways in which they are different. But if you were getting used to the 5001, don't freak out. These are very similar exams. Okay. All right. So we have lots of Louisiana people. We have been in Louisiana for a long time in terms of test prep. So we love our Louisiana community. Thank you guys so much for being here. And I know you are going to have to start taking this test in September. So it's a little bit smaller webinar. Normally we have like 200-300 people on, but because this particular test is so new, there's only 3 states right now that have said they are using it. However, because it is such a well-crafted exam, I do suspect that more states will adopt this particular exam. So if you are studying for any elementary education exam, this is going to help you. So it's all good. And I see I have somebody from Buffalo, New York. Awesome. If you're working on anything elementary ed, it doesn't matter. This particular webinar will help you. Okay. So I just wrote a new book for this exam, the 7001. When you sign up for this webinar, you got the free study guide. It's only like maybe 10 pages. This is almost 600 pages because there are so many things assessed on this exam. And again, if you were used to the earlier 5001, not much has changed except one thing, which is the teaching reading portion. Basically, what they've done for this new exam is they took the old 5001 and they took the math, social studies, and science and kept that totally the same. And for the 7002, the what used to be the English and language arts portion, they are now calling that teaching reading. And so they took the teaching reading exam and put that on the front. And basically, it's just a little more in depth on the science of teaching reading than the old elementary ed exam was. Okay. So even if you were used to studying another elementary ed, it's okay. Really, the nuance is going to come with the teaching reading. And I've got you. I've crafted a whole book on it. I have free videos, paid videos, the whole thing. So we're going to show you all of that today. So if you signed up, you got a free study guide. We're going to go through that free study guide today. If you haven't had a chance to download it, don't worry about that. Just follow along with me. I'm going to project everything on my screen, and you can download it later and do it later. So don't frantically look for that study guide. I'd rather you pay attention to the webinar. And then, of course, you are going to get an email with everything I talk about today, and a follow-up email with all the links and everything else. So if something happens to your internet, if you have to go, if you can't stay, or if you come on late, don't worry. You're going to get the replay, email, discount code. We're going to put a discount code in the chat if you would like to get this particular book. If you are in Louisiana and you already purchased the 5001, do not buy a whole new program. If you purchased our online course or our book, send us an email and we will get you the teaching reading portion, because everything else is the same. So some of you, I got emails saying, I invested, $150 on the online course. Oh my gosh, now I have to take a new test. Don't worry, we will help you. So if you bought your online course from us, from our website, let us know and we will switch it out for the 7001. It's all good because it's basically the same except for a couple changes. All right. Okay. So with this, you got the free study guide. We're going to talk about that today. Let me show you just quickly where you can get more free resources and paid resources before we get started here. So you know that on my website here, KathleenJasper.com, we have all of our programs. We do have the brand new 7001, which includes the online course and the study guide. Now, if you need all sections of the exam, you're going to want to get either the full study guide or the full online course. Now, please remember, with the online course, you get everything. You get the study guide, you get all of the videos, you get the extra practice tests. Let me show you what it kind of looks like here. When you get the online course, notice you can download the study guide here. Then we have videos for every section. Then we have quizzes. Then we have videos for the quizzes. Then we have full practice tests at the end where they mirror the practice tests in the book. So there are 2 full practice tests at the end of each section. Or is there 3? There's 2. There's 2 full practice tests at the end of each section. There's also mini quizzes. There's a lot going on here. And with the math, we did a new math. I redid all the math. So we have all of these, just all of this information for the math, and we have all new videos and things like that. That's going to help you with that. Okay. So really important there. And then of course we have, let's go to here, the physical copy. Let's go back to study guides and elementary and then 7001. Okay. We have the physical copy on Amazon here. We just published it. We now have 2 5-star ratings. So let's share that tab here. And you can see this is the full study guide. If you prefer a physical study guide, please get it from Prime. Don't get the used. The used will have writing in it. And I get emails that say, hey, my study guide had writing in it. If you buy from a third party, there's absolutely nothing I can do. If you buy from Prime, they can replace it for you if something's wrong with it. So please just spend the extra couple bucks. Get the study guide from Prime. Comes within 2 days. When you buy from our website, it's digital. It gets emailed to you. Emailed to your email address. Check your spam if you don't see it. If you have any problems getting it, we will help you there. Now, in the particular, let me stop sharing here. In this particular webinar, we're going to go over a free study guide, which is great. I'm going to go over a lot of stuff. And there's a code. Yana is my colleague. She is in the chat and she just put in an offer code for 20% off. Oh, it says 10% off. Let's go ahead and give them 20% off. Let's do a different code, Yana, if you can hear me. That one is for 10% off. If you can make a new code, Yana, and make it 20% off, that would be good. I want to give the webinar people 20% off. We'll fix it. Make sure you guys get that. Okay. All right. So let's get started with my presentation. Remember, new test, but same concepts. So don't get freaked out about it too much. Let's go over here. Now I have done a couple of problems here. So I need to I did a video, just need to erase this here. I did a video today really quickly for YouTube, and I did a couple problems from this. So let's have a look at the test overall. So this test is Heavy on the teaching reading here. Okay. So this is the 7001. And the 7002 is the teaching reading. The 7003 is the math. The 7004 is the social studies. And the 7005 is the science. Now you can see it's heavy on the teaching reading with 110 questions at 40%. So let's do black 002. And the math is 7003, and the social studies 7004, and the science is 7005. So it looks a lot like the 5001, right? The 5002 was the reading and language arts, the 03 was math, the 04 was social studies, and the 05 was science. So it's all pretty much the same. Notice, though, that the teaching reading has a lot more problems. So the test is going to be heavy on that teaching reading. Why? Well, because everybody needs to be a reading teacher, especially in elementary education. Social studies, science, even math is heavy on the reading. So we want to make sure that we understand the science of teaching reading and all of the different skills that we need to understand when it comes to reading comprehension, which is going to be phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and decoding, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and then ultimately writing. There's a writing section. In this book as well, I have a heavy assessment section in the first part of this book, all about formative assessments in reading, how to assess students' reading fluency with running records, all the different types of assessments, because there are a lot of assessment questions, because good reading teachers use assessment to make instructional decisions in their classroom. So this is the overall structure of the whole exam. It's a big one. You can take them separately. I recommend you take them all at once the first time. The first time you take them, you could get 2, 1, 3, however many sections. And if you are successful on all 4, fantastic, you're done. Let's say you're not successful on 1 or 2, then you can just take those sections. That's why we offer our products with separately. You can buy the 02, the 03, or the 04, or the 05. But I suspect most of you have not taken this exam yet because it just starts in September. So I would take the whole thing at once. Yes, it is long. It is overwhelming, but you could grab a few sections there, and then you only have to take what you didn't miss. Please also keep in mind that a lot of people have to retake Praxis exams. The pass rate is very low. It's like 50% pass all sections. So a lot of people have to take it more than once. It's okay. I know it's expensive, which really stinks. Some states subsidize it and help you with that, reducing the price. But it is expensive, but you can take it as many times as you need to. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into that teaching reading portion. So we're going to jump right into this. I want to talk to you very specifically about this because this is the part that changed from the old 5001. So Louisiana, Missouri, you took a whole other test, and Kansas, I believe you used Pearson before this. You guys just adopted this ETS test, I believe. So not much has changed for you. This test is brand new, and it just is what it is. But for Louisiana, you guys did the 5001, which changed slightly for the 7001 in this area, the teaching reading. They basically beefed this section up. And you want to think about this as the science of teaching reading. Now, what is the science of teaching reading? Well, it's right here in these bullets. Phonological and phonemic awareness. This is emergent literacy, understanding the sounds in words. And notice as we go through these skills, it gets more complex. The progression, it's systematic. That's a good word on this exam. Systematic instruction. That's part of the science of teaching reading. Okay. Then we have phonics and decoding. That's looking at the word. So phonological and phonemic awareness can be done in the dark. You can turn off the lights, no pencils, no paper. We're just doing sounds and words. So if I said something like, how many sounds in the word bat? And you went, ba-at. 3. That's a phonemic awareness activity. I don't have to see the word to do that. I can do it with my eyes closed. So remember that. You can do phonological and phonemic awareness in the dark. Phonics, however, and decoding, I have to see the word because I have to understand that. Let's just say I see the word phone, right? I know that when a P and an H are together, they make a f sound. How do I know that? Well, it's a rule. It's a rule in English, and it's a phonics rule. Okay. I also know that the O is long because we have a consonant here followed by this silent E. All of those are codes inside the word. And when it comes to phonics, we are doing phonics and decoding. All right. And then we have vocab and fluency, the next step up. So fluency is reading with automaticity and prosody, stopping at periods, pausing at commas, reading with inflection, not just running through the whole thing without thinking about punctuation. Punctuation actually helps us with comprehension, stopping, breathing, all of that. And then vocab is understanding the meanings of words inside, sentences, passages, and chapters, right? We have different vocabulary strategies, learning in context, using semantic cues, syntactic cues. All of that is part of vocab instruction. And then when we put all of that together, we get the essence of reading, which is comprehension. And we are comprehending literary and informational text. Don't forget your informational text. Remember, your social studies and science text is a great opportunity for working on those reading skills. All right. So very, very important there. And then there's some written expression there. The written expression is the application. We are now going to take what we learned in reading, and we're going to write our own stories. We're going to write our own paragraphs. Okay. That's the application of the skill, performance-based, very, very important. All right. Now notice here that the biggest part of the exam, according to the teaching reading specs, is the vocab and fluency. However, we've got comprehension is there as well. Don't skirt any of this exam. You definitely want to understand the foundations, the phonics, and the written expression. It's all important. It's pretty much evenly distributed, but the comprehension and the vocab and fluency are almost 50% of the test. Okay. So just think about that. You don't have to skip any one section. In fact, I make sure you do not. Make sure you understand all of these and really look through that study guide and work on those practice test questions. But here's the thing. Practice test questions are not going to help you pass this test. Understanding how to teach reading is going to help you pass this test. So practice tests are really good. I write practice tests. I have study guides that are full of them. But what's more important is the information inside the study guide. There's so much information here. And let me show you in our free study guide what that looks like. So let me go back to here. Let me stop sharing, see if we have any questions. Good morning from Maryland. Good morning, guys. All right. Okay. Praxis, that's a long offer code. Okay, well, we'll use that offer code for now. Praxis 7001 20% for 20% off. So that's going to be the offer code for 20% off. You see that in the chat, you guys. So let me go over to our free study guide because that's what we're working out of today to go through all these sections. Let me share screen really quickly. Let's see where it is. Where is my study guide? It's way over here. Okay, I have to move my stuff around. All right, so let's go over here. And you can see this is the free study guide here. All right, so this has got a bunch of questions in it. Make sure you're looking at the answer explanations. A lot of times I go in very in depth about why something is correct and why something is incorrect. Sometimes you get something right and you guessed. So you really want to make sure you read the answer explanations. Very important. And in the book, you can see, let's go here. The answer explanations. Let's go to just this one here, comprehension. All right. So you can see look at all this information. You have to read the study guide. Please read the study guide. It's so important. A lot of times people just skip right to the practice test and they just do practice test questions over and over again. That is not going to help you understand these very complex teaching skills that are assessed, especially on the 7002. So please read it. It's very important. And again, look at these answer explanations here. It's going to help you understand why something is correct and why something is not correct. And then finally, very important with the 7002 in the full study guide, that's writing, hang on, is the assessment section. Please get to know this assessment section. Assessment questions are embedded across the entire teaching reading portion, the 7002. So I actually separate it out here and give it its own chapter They don't do that on the test because I want you to focus so much on assessment because it's going to help you understand how to answer these questions. And as you can see, I've got all the different types of assessments here. Really important information. This is a running record. If you're new to teaching, you have to understand the assessments. And if you are not new to teaching, but maybe you taught a different content area, you definitely want to check out all of this in the book. Okay. Very, very important. And then of course we have full practice tests. That's the assessment section. Hold on, please. Well, we have good words and phrases. I'm going to talk about these throughout the presentation today. Good words and phrases that are in the correct answer choices. We're going to work backwards and look at this. And then bad words, extra homework, worksheets. These are things that are typically not the right answer on the exam. And I'm going to show you that in context when we look at some of these questions. And then, of course, we have practice tests here. Full practice tests with very detailed answer explanations to help you with that. And we do that for every single section. So you can see here, this more reading, more teaching reading. And then we get into, where's the math? Lots of math, understanding how to teach math, very important. And you're also going to have to understand like some pretty hard math problems. We're going to go through a couple of them today. And then the same thing, we have practice test questions. And then of course, full practice tests. They even assess the coordinate plane because this goes all the way up to 6th grade. So some of this is hard. The geometry is tough on here. The algebra can be tough, along with some of the basic skills as well. Of course, we have full practice tests here, and then very detailed answer explanations here showing you how to solve it. And then again, with the social studies. Now, the social studies, this is going to have 3 subject areas. And the social studies is basically content. You have to kind of memorize the content of social studies. So the Constitution, European exploration and colonization. There are some timelines. You don't have to know exact dates, but you kind of got to know when things happen to piece things together, especially in chronological order. So I help you out there with a lot of the stuff in here. But this is basically content, understanding all of these different concepts. And the same with, let's go to science really quickly. This book is huge. It's 600 pages, so just bear with me. So science, you're going to have to understand Earth, space, physical, and life science. And a lot of it is stuff you haven't thought about maybe in 30 years, like, waxing and waning crescent moon, the different equinoxes. I know some of you may know this, but others, you might not have thought about the fall equinox since you were in elementary school. So a lot of this is brushing up on some of these things that you haven't seen in a really long time. All right. So let's hop over to the free study guide. We're going to go through I'm going to try to go through every question. What do we got here? 10:30. Yeah. I'm going to try to go through every question here. Definitely going to go through every one for the teaching reading, because I think that is the hardest one. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here. See if anybody has any questions. No questions so far. Good. We have South Carolina, Maryland, New Jersey. New Jersey. We love New Jersey. We're in New Jersey a lot. Louisiana, Kansas. Anyone from Missouri in here today? Because Missouri just adopted this test. Let me know if you're from Missouri. You're definitely on the list for the 7002. Okay. All right. So let's get started. Let's go to my presentation again. All right. So we are going to start with the teaching reading. And here it is. Let's start with this question. Now, one thing that stands out to me right away, choose all that apply. Here's what you need to know about these particular questions. You need to get the whole thing correct. I get this question a lot. Can I get some of it and get partial credit? No, you have to get all the ones that are correct. If it says choose 2, there are 2. If it says choose all, it could be all of them. It could be one of them, but you have to make sure you get all of them correct in order to get the full credit. These are typically weighted a little bit more. You'll get more points for these when they do the scale scoring for this test, but you have to get them all right. Let's have a look at the question because it's so short. We don't need to work backwards on this one. Which of the following would be a sign of early print awareness? Print. Remember, look for key words in the question. Let's have a look at the answer choices. A, when the teacher holds the book upside down, the student tells the teacher to turn it right side up. This is print awareness. I'm going to circle A. Print awareness is understanding like the cover of the book, and the students will see pictures and know that they need to be right side up. They know we read from and this is letter C. Students know we read from left to right, top to bottom, front to back. That is also print awareness, okay? Notice we have to see the book, see the words to do this. That has to do with print. Let's have a look at B. A student can pronounce all the sounds in the word forgetful. Sounds is not print. Print is looking at the word. Remember, phonemic and phonological awareness have to do with sounds only. We can do it in the dark. We're not looking at the word. So B is out. C, a student can substitute the B sound in bat with a P sound to make the word pat. This is a phonemic awareness substitution activity. We're talking about sounds in words. This is asking me about print, looking at the word. D is out. A and C are correct. All right. Be on the lookout for those types of patterns on the exam. All right, let's have a look at this question. Now, this is one of those big ones. So I want to kind of work backwards when I see something like this. I have a lot of videos on working backwards. Many of you, let me know in the chat if you have done any of my work backwards routines. It really helps because if you start up here and you read the whole thing, you're going to forget and you're going to have to go back up and reread. I say work backwards. Start with the question stem for something like this. Which of the following should the teacher focus on next for this student? This sets my purpose for the question. The teacher needs to figure out what is the next skill. And this is a big part of the reading, teaching reading. We need to understand the progression of skills. That's the systematic way of the science of teaching reading. So let's have a look at what they're doing here. Teacher, what is the object on the card? Okay, so she shows a picture of a baseball bat. And the student says, a bat. All right, that is alphabetic principle. Pre-alphabetic, just a little extra info for you. We're not seeing any letters on the card. We're seeing a picture, and the student says bat. If it's a picture of a sun, the student will say sun. If it's a picture of a flower, the student will say flower. There are no letters on the card. We're just talking about a picture, so it's pre-alphabetic here. Just something to think about. Teacher, very good. It is a bat. What sounds do you hear in the word bat? And the student says, b, t. Very good. The teacher says there is a b and a t sound in the word bat. All right. Now, if you read the study guide, you'll know that when students hear, and I'm writing this word right now, even though they did it sounds only. When students hear the word bat early on, they hear the hard consonant sounds first, b, t. But there is this medial sound, the ah sound. And that would be the next step here. So let's have a look at the answer choices and see, even if I didn't know that, if I could narrow this down, all right? A, work on identifying beginning sounds in words. Well, we already have the beginning sound, b, so A is out. B, work on identifying ending sounds in words. We have the t sound, the ending sound. So we've got that. C, work on blending phonemes in words. Okay, perhaps blending it all together. D, work on medial sounds in words. Medial is the middle. I have to get that middle sound before I can blend them all together. I can't say bat without understanding the A, the ah sound. So D is the next step in the progression of reading, working on medial sounds in words. Then we could blend the whole thing together, but not until then, making D the best answer. Let's have a look at number 3. So let's look at the answer choices first, just because everything looks a little bit long here. Have students break down unfamiliar words based on sound letter correspondence. Okay, this is phonics. Sound letter. I have to look at the letter to identify the sound, like I did in that word phone, right? The P and the H together makes a F sound. I only know that by looking at it. The O is long, the E is silent. These are all the codes. Sound letter correspondence, that's what's happening here. So A is phonics. B, have students identify unfamiliar words and segment them into different sounds. Okay, well, we have words here. Could be phonics, but I have this sounds here. So that's going to be like phonological or phonemic awareness. Segmenting them into different sounds. C, have students sort words based on onset and rhyme. All right, onset and rhyme as in the word track. And again, I'm going to write this word, but if we are doing an onset and rhyme activity with phonological awareness, we would not write the word. But onset and rhyme is the separation of the word by its onset, which is the beginning consonant or consonant cluster, and rhyme, its ending vowel and consonants together. So track, if I said break up the word track by onset and rhyme, they would go ter-ack. It's a phonemic or phonological awareness activity. So B and C look like sounds only, and D, have students divide words based on syllables. Well, syllables could be broken up by looking at the word. It could also be done by sound. So D has both. Let's have a look at the question. A teacher wants students to take an analytic approach to phoneme-grapheme relationships. Right away, phoneme, sound, grapheme, letter. This is phonics, A. Notice that when I kind of work backwards and read the answer choices first, I get an understanding of what's going on and I can better figure out what's happening. I don't have to read this thing 40 times. All right. It also says, which of the following would be the most effective? You might say, well, all of these are effective. Yeah, but it says for phoneme, grapheme, correspondence or relationships. It also says an analytic approach. This would be an analytic approach because we're looking at patterns. We're identifying patterns and analyzing them. And sound letter matches phoneme grapheme. Phonemes are sounds, graphemes are letters. So A is the best answer. Look for those connections in the question. All right, and the next one, let's have a look at the answer choices. Use flexible grouping based on formative assessment. This has all the good words. Flexible grouping, formative assessment, data-driven. I like it. B, use homogeneous grouping based on student reading levels. Homogeneous grouping, typically a bad word. Not that we don't use homogeneous grouping sometimes temporarily, but we do not want to use this as a practice all the time. Homogeneous groups means that you take each student based on their level and you put them in a group. Now, this is good for differentiating if you need to focus on the kids, but we don't want to keep them there. We want to kind of use that as a temporary thing. So B is not too specific on how we're using it. So I don't love it. I love A. I don't love B, but I won't cross it off. C, use whole group direct instruction. Okay, you can do that. Use small group explicit instruction. All right, this and this are kind of the same. Let's have a look at the question. Which of the following would be most effective in differentiating instruction for students struggling with writing specifically complex sentences? Okay, in order to differentiate most effectively, we need to be data-driven by using assessment. That's why A is still the best answer. B, C, and D can all be done, although whole group direct instruction isn't really going to differentiate because you're giving everything the same to the kids. So C, I'm going to cross off. But you could use homogeneous groupings and you could use small group explicit instruction. B and D are very close. But what sets A apart is that formative assessment. Be on the lookout for data-driven practices in the answer choices because it's going to be the correct answer. All right, let's have a look at number 5. All right, I just have different things here. Reading comprehension, identifying text structures, summarizing events, and reading with prosody. Just real quick, if I'm thinking like a test maker, A and C are kind of the same in that reading comprehension and summarizing are similar skills. You use summarizing and reading comprehension. That's just going to stand out. Which of the following is a component of fluency? Prosody, reading with prosody. Prosody, automaticity, reading with inflection in your voice, intonation, all of that is part of fluency. D is the best answer there. All right. Okay, let me go back here, see if there are any questions. Is this beneficial for Texas Star? Yes, absolutely. Lots of people use our teaching reading course. This is for the whole elementary ed, but if you're looking for, Gabriella, if you're looking for the Texas STR Science of Teaching Reading, our teaching reading book will help you. That section I just went over just now is the science of teaching reading. They basically put that in the front of this test. So go to my website under Teaching Reading 5205. It's almost identical to the test you're taking. Okay. Is there age limit for taking the exam? I don't know. I mean, I know anyone can take the exam. You don't even have to be trying to be a teacher. Anybody can take an ETS exam. I don't know if there's an age limit. Like if you're too old or too young, I don't know. All right, let's move on to the math portion. Now, the math portion is not easy. There are some math problems that if you aren't great at math, you're going to need to brush up on not only your basic math skills, but some of the more difficult math skills. Okay, so let's go ahead and share my screen here. So with math, there are 3 main sections, numbers and operations. And this is the big one. It is going to be assessed on all sections of the exam because numbers and operations, PEMDAS, place value, least common multiple, greatest common factor, those types of things are assessed in so many different types of math problems. So you're going to see numbers and operations on many different problems. Then we have algebraic thinking. And then we have geometry, measurement, data, probability, and stats. This one's a big one. This one can be kind of hard. They're all, you gotta make sure you brush up on this stuff. All right, let's have a look at a numbers and operations question. So this one here, you can see, select all. And remember, we need to get them all correct if we are going to get the points for this particular question. So here's the number here. Let's have a look. The 2 is in the thousands place. Actually, no, the 3 is in the thousandths place. You got to know your place value. So A is not 1. B, the 4 is in the hundreds place. Yes, the 4 is in the hundreds place. All right, I'm going to check B. On the exam, it's the computer, so you would click the box, okay? C, there are no 10s in this number. That is correct. There are no 10s. There's a 0 there. So C would be correct. Let me check that. Yes. 7 is in the tenths place. Remember the TH, the tenths? Nope. Actually, 0 is in the tenths place. The 7 is in the hundredths place. So D is not correct. E, there is a 0 in the one-ths place. There is no one-ths place. This is not correct. This is nonsense. E is out. F, the 2 is in the 10,000s place. Yes, the 2 is in the 10,000s place, making B, C, and F correct. Be careful, slow down. Just take a second and make sure you get all of them correct, because remember, you need them all correct in order to get the points for this. Let's have a look at number 2. All right, I can see right from the answer choices, and I look at the answer choices in math as well first. I do a lot for ACT. I do it for any math test because it helps me identify what I'm being asked to do. And in this case, I can see it's scientific notation and it says scientific notation. And I know from scientific notation, I can cross off A, D, and E right away, because in scientific notation, you have to put the decimal point between the first two numbers. So it's incorrect here. It is incorrect here, and it's incorrect here. It needs to be 6.85. This is where the decimal point needs to go in scientific notation. So you can eliminate A, D, and E right away. And this just helps you think like a test maker. Now we have to decide, is it 10 to the second or 10 to the fourth? 10 to the second or 10 to the fourth? Well, if it was just 10 to the second, I would move this decimal point 1, 2 to the right. Because if it's positive, you would move it to the right. Well, that's only 685. I'm looking for 68,500. So B is out, making C the correct answer, because if I have 6.85 times 10 to the 4, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, put my zeros in. That would be 68500, making C the correct answer. Okay. Let's have a look at number 3. All right, I can see I've got all these different equations here. Which of the following is an example of the commutative property of addition? Commutative property means x plus y equals y plus x. Sorry, that looks like an X. You can switch them around and it doesn't matter. You cannot do it with subtraction, but you can do it with multiplication and you can do it with addition. In this case, we're doing addition. You cannot do it with division and you cannot do it with subtraction. Remember, order matters in those two cases. So let's have a look at the answer choices and see which one is correct. A, parentheses 2 plus x close parentheses plus 3 equals 2 plus parentheses x plus 3 close parentheses. This is actually the associative property where we move parentheses around. That's the associative property. And I have charts in my book that show you all the different ways in which this is done. B, have a look at this. Y plus W, W plus Y, and its addition. Commutative property of addition. Looks like B is my answer. Let's discredit C and D. 5A plus B plus 1 equals 5A plus B. Actually, this is not true. You forgot this plus 1 here. This is not equal. That is not equal. So C is out, and it's not commutative either. And D, 2 to the quantity 3x plus 8 closed parentheses minus 1 is 6x plus 16 minus 1. This is actually the distributive property. D is out. We're looking for the commutative property. You distributed that too. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 8 is 16. This is the distributive. We're looking for the commutative. So B is the best answer. All right, let's have a look at number 4 in the free study guide. I have a little picture here, and there's no A, B, C, D, or E here. So there'll probably be a little box where you have to put the correct answer in the box, okay? I'm just gonna work this out for you guys so you can see it. Sometimes you have to type in the numeric, you don't get the answer choices, all right? All right, so right away, if I look at the picture, I know this is gonna be a proportion. I have 3 out of the 4 values that I need. These are some little things you can do when it comes to this, okay? So I'm going to set this proportion equal to one another. Let's read the question stem here. The height of a tree can be found using similar triangles. Basically, you're doing this. Similar triangles, and we're looking at this right here and this right here, this part of the triangle. A 12-foot tree casts a 7-foot shadow. There's the shadow down at the bottom. If a nearby tree casts a 5-foot shadow, how tall is the tree? We talk about shadows, we're talking about proportions. So we want to make this matchy-matchy. Whatever we put on the top has to be on the top on both sides. So I'm going to put 12 on the top here. That means I'm going to put the height on the top as well, which is, I don't know what it is. It's a question mark. So I'm going to make that X. Then I have 7. And then I have 5. Height over bottom equals height over bottom, or height over shadow equals height over shadow. Right? Height over shadow equals height over shadow. Matchy, matchy. Don't mix them up. If you mix them up, you're not going to get the right answer here. Okay? All right. So then what I'm going to do is cross multiply and solve. So 7 times X is 7X equals 5 times 12 is 60. Divide by 7, and we get X equals, well, 7 goes into 60 8 times. You get 56. With a remainder of 4, put that over 7. You could do 8 points. Let's see here. If you used your calculator, and you do get a calculator for this test. So 8, what did we have? 60 divided by 7. 60 divided by 7. Be careful. 8.57. You could do that as well. They might take 8.5, 8.6, 8.57. Both of those could be correct, all right? There will probably be 2 or 3 different answers that they would accept for this, okay? You could do 8.57, 8.6. They might tell you bring it out to the hundredths or 2 decimal places. They'll tell you in the thing, but in this case, it is 8 4/7 or 8.57, okay? And number 5, these ones are hard. You probably haven't seen this in a while. I'm going to rewrite this over on the side so you can see it. It says, which of the following graph is a solution to -5 less than or equal to -4x plus 1 less than or equal to 13. Okay, this is where we want to work backwards as well. What do we have here? We have less than or equal to, less than or equal to. Well, when we have less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, that's going to equal a closed dot. Less than or greater than equals an open dot. In this case, we need 2 closed dots because both signs have that equal to underneath it. So I can eliminate A and I can eliminate D right away, giving me a better chance in solving this problem. Okay? So now we're going to treat this as an inequality and solve for X and figure out which graph works, okay? There's a couple rules we want to keep in mind here. So first, we are going to isolate the X, just like normal algebra. The only difference is we have inequality signs instead of equal signs, but the process is still the same. So let's subtract 1, getting rid of it here. Whatever I do in the middle, I have to do to both sides. So -1, -1, both sides, okay? So -5 minus 1 is actually -5 plus a -1. That's going to be -6 less than or equal to -4x less than or equal to 12. Okay. Now, isolating the x further, divide by -4. Cancels. Now, be careful. When we divide by a negative, we need to change these signs. So this is going to be -6 divided by -4 greater than or equal to x greater than or equal to, because we're dividing this -12 by -4 as well. And we get -3. Be careful. When you divide, when we have an attachment to the x and we're dividing by a negative with inequalities, we flip the signs. And we divided by a negative on both sides, so we flipped both signs. Now, -6 divided by -4 is going to be, hang on, it's going to be 1.5. But let me just make sure. -6 divided by 4, -1.5. It's actually positive 1.5 because a negative divided by a negative is positive. So we have 1.5 greater than or equal to x greater than or equal to -3. All right, so right away, if we have x is basically less than x is less than or equal to 1.5 because the x is in the middle. So let's rewrite it. X is less than or equal to 1.5. I'm just basically reading it from left or from right to left. And then we have x is greater than or equal to -3. I'm going to put a solid dot on -3, and I'm going to put a solid dot on 1.5. And if x is greater than 1.5, we're going this way, right? I'm sorry. If x is less than, I'm sorry, you guys, this is why we have to be careful. If x is less than 1.5, we're going this way. And if x is greater than -3, we're going this way. So we're going greater than -3, less than 1.5. C is the best answer there. Keep it straight. That's why I did this problem 3 times before I got on today. And still, the signs get crazy. Be careful. Okay. Let me go ahead and stop sharing, see if anybody has any questions. I can redo that one if you want me to. Let's go through this. Okay. Johnson is asking, can you use the 5001 to study for the 7001? You can. If you already purchased it from us, please send us an email so we can give you the updated teaching reading. All right. Send us an email. Okay. You do get an on-screen calculator. Yes. It is just a basic calculator. What I would do is when you're studying for the exam, I would pull up the calculator you get with your computer. You know how you can do it like on the Mac, it's a little icon. You go into your applications and you can use it. I would try that because you have to use it like with a mouse and you can mess up. So I would practice with that. Okay. I have the 5001 digital course. Do I need to purchase a whole new course? No. Please send us an email, Brits. I don't know what your name is. I just see your email. Please send us an email and we will switch your course out if you are taking the 7001. It's all the same except for the teaching reading. So please do not buy all new stuff if you've already invested, because the 5001 is a $150 course. I want to make sure you get what you need. So email us. We will honor that because we know some of you from Louisiana, you already purchased a bunch of stuff. I don't want you to have to repurchase it. A lot of it is the same. There's only one small difference. So just email us and we'll take care of you. Okay. Remember, if you haven't purchased anything, get the 7001. All right, let's talk about the social studies really quickly. Let's go to that, and then we'll wrap things up with the science. All right, social studies, 3 main sections: U.S. history, government, and citizenship. This is going to be all about European exploration, the start of the United States, 3 branches of government, the Constitution, our responsibilities as citizens, all of that. Geography, anthropology, and sociology, all about, the way humans interact, geography, places on the earth, things like that. And then, this one should say, that should not say vocab and fluency. Sorry about that. That should say world history and econ. They put the world history and economics together. Okay. And that's why it's got a little bit more here. So you're going to do everything like world history. It's going to be, World War I and World War II, which is covered in U.S. history because we were a part of that. But you're going to have some ancient civilizations in there. You're going to have some conflict over in like the French Revolution, stuff like that. And then you will also have basic economics. Not easy. Some of these things you haven't seen in a while. So make sure you brush up on those. Let's have a look at some of the questions you might see on the exam. All right. So with these, I like to look at the answer choices, but because it is social studies, a lot of times it's just content driven. So you just have to read the question first. Which of the following was the central conflict of the American Civil War? Central conflict. That means the main conflict. A, economic disparities between the North and the South. That was part of it, not the central conflict. B, disputes over states' rights and federal power. Part of it, not the central conflict. C, conflicts over the expansion of slavery. Central conflict, yes, it was slavery. And a lot of people like to say, no, it wasn't slavery. Yeah, it was. The central conflict in the American Civil War was slavery. And when it comes to states' rights, it was that states wanted rights to own slaves. That's why. So C is the answer in life and on the exam. And D, a desire of the South to secede from the North. That was a conflict as well, but the South wanted to secede because they wanted to keep their slaves, the enslaved people. So D is a conflict, but not the central conflict. The central conflict was the fight over slavery. C. Number 2. Okay. So this is a big one. I would probably work backwards on this one. Okay. So we have the question stem here. Which activity would be most effective in enhancing their understanding of this time? All right. A, reading primary source documents from factory workers during this time. Anything primary source is going to be a good word on this exam. Why? Because a primary source gives you a firsthand account. And when we're talking about history, that's really important because we read a lot of stuff, but the diaries and the letters and the one-to-one interviews with the people who actually lived it is very important in history. And if you teach social studies, especially in the middle or high school, you know that primary source documents are a big part of what you do. So I like A. I'm going to circle it just because it has good words in it. B, watching a documentary. Videos are typically the wrong answer on this exam. Are videos good in social studies? Sure. But I'll tell you this just from an assistant principal standpoint, because I was an assistant principal. I was also a teacher. Don't rely too much on videos when you're teaching social studies. I knew a lot of social studies teachers who like to turn on the videos and let it run all period. Videos are good. They help reinforce concepts, but there should be discussion. It should be aligned to the standards. That should not be the mode of teaching. So on the exam and in life, videos are typically the wrong answer. So I'm going to cross off B. C, creating a timeline of key events. Okay. I like a timeline, visual. I like primary source better, but I'm going to keep C just in case. D, participating in a debate on the social and economic impacts. Okay, I like debate as well. And we have this social economic impacts of industrialization. So A, I love for primary source, but C and D are good too. I crossed off B for bad words. Let's read the question. A fourth grade teacher wants to help students understand the working conditions of factory workers during the Industrial Revolution. The class has already read from the textbook and discussed working conditions. So they already kind of know what it's like. To help them understand it more, what could we do? Well, a firsthand account of what it's like working in a factory is going to be the best thing there. Primary source documents, letters, maybe diaries, things like that, for sure. A timeline is more of a chronological understanding of something. And that's not really going to help us understand working conditions. So C does not help us with that. And D, participating in a debate. Well, this helps with the social economic impacts, but I'm trying to figure out working conditions. A debate isn't going to do that. So D is out, making A the best answer. All right, let's have a look at number 3. What does the understanding of the word in spatial terms? Key word here, spatial terms. That's a big part of geography, understanding where the continents are, where the oceans are, how, a position on the earth, determines its weather and its climate and things like that. All of that's part of geography, all right? A, evaluating the emotional impact of global events, not spatial terms. This is going to be more sociology, more psychology, a part of the social studies, but not the world in spatial terms. This is geography, okay? B, assessing the economic performance. Again, economics is part of social studies, part of that discipline, but the spatial terms is geography. B is out. C, analyzing location, distribution, and patterns of people and places. Yes, this is a little bit of sociology because we got people and places, but we have location, distribution. So C looks good. D, comparing political systems across the world. That's political science, not necessarily spatial terms, So D is out, making C the best answer there. Number 4, this is going to be world history. We got the Truman Doctrine. It could also be U.S. history, but you might see it on either one. All right. So which of the following United States policies aligns with the principles of the Truman Doctrine? What's the Truman Doctrine? Really quickly, and this is a very stripped down version. I know some of you might be scholars in history. So, this is just a K6 exam, but the Truman Doctrine has to do with communism. We did not want, or the United States did not want, other countries to fall to communism. And so we basically gave support to countries trying to fight off the communists, which is Russia at the time, the Soviet Union. And we believed that if one country fell to communism, they would all fall to communism. And that was called the domino effect. So to try to stop that, the Truman Doctrine basically said, we will help our allies fight communist nations. And so that is why A is the best answer here, because we would supply economic and military support to Greece and Turkey post World War II. All right. Now, Japan, during the Cold War, and Russia and all that, they were not our alliance. That during that time, they were not our alliance. They were part of the Axis powers. So we're not cozying up to Japan at this time. Okay. Implementing trade embargoes against Cuba. This is more of the Bay of Pigs and John F. Kennedy time, JFK. But it's part of the communist situation, but not part of the Truman Doctrine. And D, launching the space race against the Soviet Union. Again, part of the Cold War, but not part of the Truman Doctrine. This, again, is Kennedy time, a race to the moon within this decade. And we did it. In 1969, we beat Soviet Union to the moon, but not part of the Truman Doctrine. So you do have to understand some of these nuances. And again, this might be something you haven't thought about in a long time. So make sure you brush up on that. And number 5, which 2 scenarios best exemplifies opportunity costs? Which 2? All right. Remember, we got to get them both correct in order to get the whole thing correct. A, Sarah chooses to spend her money on a new video game instead of going to the movies with her friends. Yes, this is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is where you spend money on something, but you miss an opportunity to spend it on another. So for example, she only has so much money. Maybe let's say she has $100 or $50 or something like that, right? She buys a new video game and forgoes the opportunity of going to the movies with her friends, right? So A is a part of opportunity cost. Another one is like opportunity cost could be if I was a restaurant owner and I wanted to expand my parking lot and turn part of the parking lot into seating, right? So because I want to serve more customers. Well, I only have so much money and so much space. So there's actually 2 opportunity costs here happening. During the construction of the new dining room into the parking lot, I'm going to lose some customers. I'm going to lose some money, but I have the opportunity to make more money once it's over, right? And another opportunity cost is I have the opportunity to seat more people in the area that used to be part of the parking lot, but I'm going to lose parking. But I think, you know what? I can serve more people, more butts and seats, more plates to purchase. I'm going to make more money that way. That's opportunity cost, and it's a part of economics. B, rather than pay full price, John buys a discounted ticket at a concert. This is price evaluation. This is comparing prices. B is not opportunity cost. C, Lisa has money to purchase a new car and a new motorcycle, so she buys both. Buying both is not opportunity cost. Remember, you have an opportunity and a cost. This is just 2 opportunities. D, Michael purchases a new smartphone instead of going on vacation. This, yes, is opportunity cost. So A and D look like my answers. Let's just credit E. Rachel explores the cost of a new car at different times of the year so she can purchase when the prices are lowest. Not opportunity cost, more like cost comparison, which is something we need to teach students and is part of economics. But opportunity cost here is A and D. All right, let me go back, just see if we have any questions here. All right. This question was on the 5025. Tamika, that's the early childhood test, and sometimes they recycle items because the 5025 does have economics questions because it's an early childhood exam. So they actually have the geography, econ, world history, and all that at a stripped down level because it's early childhood. So you might see similar questions coming from different exams. Okay. Kristen, I am new to this. Is there something that tells you what to study? I have a study guide. This will tell you what to study. It's broken up by sections and it goes by skills and has practice test questions and all of that. But you'll also want to look on the test specifications. Okay, so you're talking about the history content. So I cover everything on the test specifications in my book. So I take the test specs and I write the book based on the test specs. If you want to get the test specs, you can do that very easily by simply going to Google, and I don't show it in my videos anymore because it's their document, and for copyright purposes, it's their document. Even though it's free, I don't want to show it in my videos. But if you go to Google and you Google Praxis, and if you're looking for the history content, I would do 7001. You're going to get the full test spec, and you do 7001 test specification. And when you do that, it'll pull up a document, and in that document, you'll see all the different categories. Now, I have them. Let me show you in the book how to find them in my book, just in case you want to see. Let's go to here. Okay, so let's go here. All right, let me go to, so social studies. We were just in social studies. Let me go to that section of the book. Oh, okay. Is this world? That's geography. Hold on. Let me go to, okay. So first I have the blueprint in the front of every section. So I show you exactly what percentage and everything based on the test specifications. Okay. Everything I write is by the test specs. Then in the front of each section, so you can see this is section 1. This is U.S. history, government and citizenship. I have this part here. This comes directly from the test specifications. And then I take each heading from the test specs and I turn it into a full section. So notice that on the test specs, they say they want you to understand European, exploration and the colonization of the United States. Okay. I have a whole entire thing on that. I talk about the colonies. I talk about the indigenous people who were here first. We talk about all the different explorers that came here and the ships that they came on and all of that. 13 colonies who colonized them and everything else. Then I go into, the next one is the American Revolution. So this is when we broke away from the British, and I have a whole section on that. And then the next one is major events. Now think about this. Major events in U.S. history. This is what it says in the specs. This could be so many things. Obviously, I get all the major events, but you know what? You could get a rogue question. People say, oh, there was a question that wasn't in your book. Well, of course there was a question that wasn't in my book. I don't know every single social studies question they could possibly ask you. They have test item banks that are full of hundreds of questions, right? What you need to understand with the history is the general timelines, the general things that have happened, so that when you get down to the answer choices, you can eliminate based on time, based on chronology, based on the key players. Notice I have like the key players of, like this is the Addams family, little pun there, but understanding, westward expansion and who were the major players and all of that, Lewis and Clark and the Louisiana Purchase, and understanding all of these major events. And these are, here are some main people who built, you've got Van Buren, Polk, Taylor, Fillmore, Pierce, Buchanan. These are all the major players. So while I try to get every single thing in there, there could be one or two concepts I don't, I have no idea what they're going to ask you on the exam, and I'm not supposed to know. It's a standardized assessment with hundreds of different item test banks. But if you study this, don't just go to practice test questions. Really get to know the history. Just like I told you for the reading, really get to understand what's going on here, because then if you're asked a question, you can kind of eliminate bad answer choices based on the timeline, stuff like that. Like that one question I showed you for World War II, and that's over here. It was talking about our alliance with Japan. Japan was not our alliance. If we knew anything about World War II, we would know that they were part of the Axis powers. We were not friends with Japan at this time. So understanding kind of the general history will help you. But there might be something specific in there that you don't know, and that's okay. But if you have an understanding of what's happening over the course of different time periods in the last 200 years or so in the U.S. history, it'll help you. The same thing with world history. We need to understand our ancient civilizations and things like that. Okay. Somebody's asking, I have a bachelor in early childhood. If I pass the 7001, can I teach elementary? Probably. But you need to check. And like Yana said, you got to check with your district. They will determine. And your district, your state may or may not be using this. Right now, 3 states have adopted it: Louisiana, Missouri, and Kansas. Some of you might be here because you heard from your district they're going to be adopting it. It just isn't official yet on the ETS website. Some of you, I'm not sure. I got a few people from Maryland and New Jersey. New Jersey, you're still using the 5001, but it's the same. It's the same. But make sure you check, because you don't want to go and buy a bunch of stuff and then you're like, oh, I need the 7813 or something. Some states use different exams. Okay. All right. Let's hop over to the science. Let's hop over to the science real quick, and then we'll wrap things up. Sorry if I'm not as lively as normal. I've been a little under the weather these last few days. I don't know what is going on, but I was sick and now I'm like, just getting over it. So usually I'm a little louder, a little more animated, but today I'm a little tired. So let's have a look at science. So science is always broken up in the elementary areas in these 3 different areas, and it helps to know what area the questions are coming from. So we're going to have earth science. So that's the earth, moon, sun, stars, the lithosphere, the crust of the earth, volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, all of that stuff is part of earth space science, the hydrosphere, all of that. Then we have life science. Everything from cells, which is the basic unit of life, all the way out into ecosystems and species and food webs and all of that. Okay. And then we have physical science, which is physics. It's going to be your atoms, your molecules, your compounds, your ions, your periodic table, pH scale, small machines, lever, pulley, stuff like that. So these encompass a lot. As we move up into the grades, like in middle and high school, physical science gets broken up into physics and chemistry. Life science turns into biology. In high school, you might have marine biology. It starts to drill down into the more specific. But for elementary and early middle school, it's these 3 main things, okay? So let's have a look and see what this might look like. Now, rocks is earth space. This has to do with the lithosphere of the earth. So you're going to need to know categories of rocks, types of rocks, how we categorize rocks, and all of that. And this one's asking, what types of rock contain fossils? Well, this is sedimentary rocks. Now, again, you may not have thought about sedimentary rocks in quite some time. If you just decided to become a teacher and you've been an accountant for the last couple of years, you're not thinking about rocks. That's why this test can be quite difficult, because even though these concepts seem easy, who is thinking about metamorphic rocks in their everyday lives except for science teachers? So let's go over these really quick. Metamorphic rocks are caused by heat and pressure. These are those very pretty crystally rocks. Sedimentary rocks are formed by sediment and layers. And that's where we get the fossils, because the fossils are in the layers. And when all that stuff kind of gets compacted together and, sand and soot kind of form around a fossil or around a bones or whatever of a dead animal, that's where the fossils come from. Igneous rocks are formed by lava and magma. Igneous is like your granite. When you have those pretty granite countertops, you see the beautiful designs that go through them. That's from lava and magma. That's igneous. And pumice stones are igneous rocks. Those are the rocks with all the little holes in it, and those come from the lava and the magma. So C and D are basically the same. A is metamorphic, heat and pressure, but sedimentary rocks have to do with fossils. Again, this is kind of like the stuff you have to memorize. It's all in the book. Just make sure you know rocks. It's a big part of this test. All right. And this is another Earth space because we have this explosion of a high mass star as it approaches the end of its cycle. This is a supernova. Again, this one might be kind of easy for you because an eclipse, an asteroid, and a comet, you probably know those aren't really stars. And a supernova, you might have remembered as a star. But again, like, what's the difference between an asteroid and a comet? You might not have thought about that. Well, an asteroid has metal in it and a comet has ice in it. So, you might not have thought of that in a while. An eclipse, what's the difference between a solar and a lunar eclipse? It's the position of the earth and the moon and the sun. And that's all in the book as well. But again, things you haven't thought about in maybe 20, 30 years. All right, let's have a look at these answer choices here because this one has a big, long scenario and I want to work backwards. A Punnett square to show variation of gene inheritance. Okay, Punnett square, good. B, a diagram showing the internal structures animals need to reproduce. All right, so A is about genes. B is about actual structures on the animal. C, a video on the role of different ecosystems. Again, video, possibly not. Don't love the term video on this test. Same as worksheet, same as extra homework. Typically not the right answer. I'm going to cross it off. D, an explanation of trait variations different species experience to survive. When we're talking about life science, trait variation tends to be a good word. Survival of the fittest tends to be a good word. We have trait variation here. So A and D are popping out. Let's have a look at the question. A teacher shows students two pictures. One picture is of a penguin on a tropical island, and the other is of a lizard in a snowstorm. The teacher then leads a discussion on how these animals might adapt over time. All right, so you have two very different situations here. Penguins are typically in cold weather, but they're in this thing on a tropical island. And lizards are typically, I live in Florida, we have tons of lizards. They're typically in humid, hot weather, not in snowstorms, but this lizard happens to be in a snowstorm. Okay. Which of the following would be most appropriate? So we're talking about how organisms can, how actually populations of organisms adapt over time and survive. And in this case, D is going to be the best answer. Now, it's not going to be B or C. And you might say, well, what about a Punnett square? All right, here's what a Punnett square is good for. Let's just draw. Remember the old Punnett squares? So dad has trait big A, little a, and mom has trait big A, little a. Let's just say this is for eye color or something, right? So they have one child and that child is big A, big A. And then they have another child and that child is big A, little a. And this child is big A, little a. And the last child is little a, little a. 25% is recessive, right? That just shows how we inherit genes. Now, it's much more complex than that, but when we're talking about elementary ed kids, this is a great exercise, right? Typically done with pea plants. Punnett square, as Mendel did pea plants, Punnett did the Punnett square, but it all kind of shows how we can inherit genes from mom and dad. But in this case, we're talking about how a penguin could survive in the tropical environment and how a lizard could survive in the snowstorm. In this case, it's going to be trait variations that different species need to survive. And here's just a quick synopsis. I was a biology teacher, and it's way more complicated than this, but let's kind of break this down. There are penguins in tropical environments because somehow they ended up there through Pangea when the earth split apart and through, travel, whatever, and trait variation. Now, trait variation is very random. It happens on accident. So let's just say, and I'm not saying this is how it happened for these particular communities of penguins, or populations of penguins. Let's say over time, we have a penguin or some penguins that have a thinner coat on them. And again, I'm not an expert in penguins. I'm just using a really dumb example right here. And let's say that as the earth warmed during a warming period, and as these penguins traveled, that thin coat actually helped them survive in more heated areas. Okay. And so the penguins with the thin coats bred with more penguins with the thin coats, the thin feathers, the thin blubber, whatever you want to call it. And so now you have a shifting population because of trait variations. We have all these thin coated penguins surviving in warmer conditions, and they're able to hunt and get their food and all of that. So that variation, just that mistake of having a thin coat and me breeding with another penguin with thin coat, changes the population and adapts the population and gives us some survival of the fittest situation here. And it's random. Who knows what you're going to get? Same with a lizard. Let's say for a lizard, they've got some trait. And again, this is not a real lizard trait. I'm not an expert in lizard, but let's just say there's a group of lizards who, because of global warming and cooling and climate change back in the day, way back in the day, you have a lizard who has a thicker coat. Maybe he's a little better at adapting to cold. Their cold-blooded tendencies of regulating their bodies, has some sort of gene that makes them better at it. I don't know. And that lizard mates with another lizard with the same genes, and they pass those genes down to another lizard, and on it goes until that population is shifted. And now we have lizards that can survive in snowstorms. Now, I don't know if lizards can survive in snowstorms. Again, I am not a lizard expert. I'm just saying this is kind of how it works. All right. And that's how trait variations work on accident to kind of make a new population of adapted organisms. Now, one lizard itself is not going to adapt. Its populations over many, many, many thousands of years of breeding and surviving and breeding and surviving and breeding and surviving. The lizard's not going to change in front of you into a snowstormy lizard. It's going to happen over many, many thousands, millions of years. Okay. All right. Number 4, which of the following provides plants with surface area? Okay, so 3 was a life science question. 4 is also a life science question. We have to understand how plants get the nutrients they need, and we need surface area. This is going to be root hairs, leaves, and chloroplasts. This is where photosynthesis happens, and we do get some water absorbed into the leaves. There's little holes in the leaves that transpiration, water can come in and out. But the root hairs are where we absorb water. So let's just say, we're going to draw this here. Oh my God. Okay. So we've got some roots. On the roots are hairs. Again, an adaptation for this organism over time. This was a trait that helped this particular plant get more water, survive. It bred with other plants based on pollination, blah, blah, blah. And now you got a bunch of plants with root hairs. Root hairs are a good thing because they spread out and suck up more water. Carbon dioxide is actually the gas that plants use to make carbohydrates. So D is out, C is out, B is out. Root hairs is the right answer. Again, one of those things you probably haven't thought of in 30 years. All right, let's have a look at number 5. Which statement correctly distinguishes between weight and mass? Okay, weight and mass are two different things. Mass is how much basically space something takes up, how big something is. Weight is how much something weighs. For example, Jupiter is much more massive than any other planet in the solar system. However, it's made up of gas. So even though it's made up of gas and the Earth is made up of rock and water and other things, Jupiter is much more massive and has higher gravity and everything on it. Remember, the bigger something is, the more gravity it has. If this is the Earth and this is the moon is tiny. We can kind of jump and float on the moon. I'm sure you've seen those pictures of the astronauts jumping on the moon, right? On the Earth, we're stuck to the Earth. We can jump, but we get sucked back down, okay? The more massive something is, the more gravitational force it has. All right. So let's have a look at A. Mass and weight are interchangeable terms. No, weight is not mass. Mass is not weight. They're two different things. A is out. B, and I'll use that Jupiter example. Jupiter probably weighs a lot less than Earth because it's made of gas, but it is much more massive. So just remember that. B, an object's mass is increased as its gravitational force is increased. No, it's opposite. The gravitational force is increased as its mass increases. For example, Earth has a higher gravitational pull than the moon because the Earth is much more massive. B is out. C, an object's mass is not affected by its location. That is true. C is right. An object's mass is its mass. It doesn't matter if the Earth moves somewhere else around the sun. It's still as massive as it is. Okay. And mass is neither created nor destroyed. It just is. So C, it looks like it's the answer. Let's have a look at D. An object's mass is reduced as its gravitational force is increased. No. Its gravitational force gets increased as mass increases. There's a lot of things wrong with this statement, so D is out. C is the best answer. Again, you have to understand the difference between mass and weight and gravity and, the way something, gravitational pull on different type objects and things like that. All right. And that concludes all of the questions. All right. Let me have a look and see if we have new messages down here. Okay. Mike T, global warming is changing monarch butterflies' mating season so they can survive. Totally. There's a lot of things happening with different organisms and things like that. I often have like weird thoughts about because I live in Florida and it's so hot here right now. And I train in the heat for like running and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I love biology. So I always think maybe I'm survival of the fittest. Maybe my daughter will be more prone, will have genes that are good for heat, and maybe she'll have babies that have genes that are good for heat, and on. Maybe our population will survive, because it's going to get hotter for sure. But it's interesting. And also, I use the example of spiders too, small spiders. It doesn't necessarily mean the bigger thing survives. Sometimes the smaller thing survives, like small spiders in an area that's getting picked off by birds, right? If you're a small spider, you might be made fun of. I always use this example for the kids, all the big spiders make fun of you because you're little. Oh, you're a little spider. Ha ha. Well, the big spider gets picked off by the birds. Easy. Boom, boom, boom. They die. And all the little spiders that got made fun of, they mate with other spiders and have millions of small spider babies. And those spiders survive. And all the mean big spiders die because their traits were not desirable for their situation. So anyways, that's just funny way in which I talk about biology. It's way more complicated than that, but yeah, for sure. Okay. Is your husband still giving classes for math? Not at this time, Yesenia. I do have a very comprehensive math course for this book, for this test, but he's not doing it at this time because he's working a lot. If I buy the book, should I buy the online course too? Or is one fine for passing the exam, either book or online course? Good question. The online course has everything. So if you need help in math and some of this teaching reading, I recommend the online course, and make sure you use the offer code. We're going to send that in the follow-up email. Okay. But, the book works too. You might get the book and say, you know what, I want the online course. If later you want the online course, send us an email. We'll apply your purchase to the course. So if you bought the book on Amazon or from us digitally and you're like, I want the online course now, send us an email. We will apply the book purchase to the purchase of the course. The course will not be free. It'll just have this minused it. And if you've bought on Amazon, send us a screenshot with your name visible so we can verify that you did in fact purchase it on Amazon. Do you have anything for early childhood? Yes, Felicia. I have 5025 and 5024 on the website. I just finished a brand new 5024 book. So both of them. It just depends on which early childhood you're taking. Both of those tests are very different. Is this course for up to 6th grade? Yes, it's K6, but check with your state to make sure they're using this test. I have other elementary ed exams. Let me show you really quickly. There's a lot of elementary ed tests, you guys. So this is the latest one that a lot of states are using. Louisiana, Missouri, Kansas have definitely adopted this. New Jersey, you guys use the 5001, which is very similar. Okay. Sorry, let me go to study guides. See all this here? These are all elementary ed exams. 5001, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, 08. 7001, 7811. These are all like this one here. Some states use the 7811. So it just depends on what state. So you got to make sure you check your state. For my New Jersey, I saw some New Jersey people in here. 5001. This is you right now. They have not adopted the 7001 yet. Louisiana, Missouri, Kansas, 7001 right here. All right. But check your state. And let me show you where you can check that. Let me go here. me share this tab. Okay. So we are going to do Praxis. Let's Google it. This is how you Google it. Praxis by state. Okay. Just Google Praxis by state and you'll see state requirements. Even if your state does not use Praxis, do this. Okay. So grab this state requirements, ETS Praxis, find your state. So let's do Alabama. Let's just go to the first one. Go. You can see now they have, somebody asked me about early childhood. They use the 5025. Some use the 5024. They're different tests. Elementary education, they use the 5901 plus the teaching reading, which is basically the 7001. But anyway, they use the 5901. This is a different one. Middle school, depending on, they use the 5047 for English, middle school science. So go here. Let's go to Louisiana. Let's do Louisiana since we have a bunch of Louisiana people here. Let's go. Louisiana. Go. And we're going. There we go. Early childhood. They use the PLT, which we have, 5025 and the 5024, depending on what you're trying to get certified in. Then they have, right now, up until September, they're using the 5001. Notice it here, 5001. But they're moving to this one here, 7001, right here in September. So if you're taking it before September, you can do the 5001, although I would just hop to this because I've got all the resources for it. So, and then you see here, elementary education, the PLT, we have this. I'm doing a webinar on this, not next week, but the week after, or no, next week. I'm doing a webinar on this next week. All right. So check here. Now, let's say you're not a Praxis. Let's say you're in Pearson State. Let's go to Massachusetts. I know they are a. So you're in Massachusetts or New York. I know there's a couple. Let's do New York because we got a couple people from New York. Sorry, let me go back to New York. New York. There we are. Go. All right. Notice that you don't have all those tabs down there that Louisiana had. That's because your state does not use ETS. Your state uses Pearson. So everybody uses this speech pathology. Everybody uses this test. It's an ETS test. But what you're going to want to do is go to certification website. On every single state, there's this certification website here. You're going to want to go here and go through, certification and licensing and go through teachers. It's not a very user-friendly website, but anyways, you'll go in and find out. It's a Pearson exam. Let's see. Certification. Gosh. Pathways, types of licensing. I guess you'd go here. I don't know. You got to find out. You got to hunt around. But it'll have your test and you can Google your test and specification, and you'll get all the information you need for your tests. All right. So let's talk really quickly one more time. Remember, this is the elementary ed exam. It is brand new. I have books for it. I have online courses for it. Okay. How different is this from the early childhood? Very different. Every test is different. Every test is different. So make sure you get the right test. I live in Indiana. Will the 5001 book help me pass the test? Online says I have to take 5006. The 5006 is different. The 5006 is all teaching scenarios for the math, the social studies, everything. I have a 5006 book. Get that book instead. Let me show you where you can find all of my stuff. Let's see. What if I purchased the 7811, but now they switched to 7001? Christina, please email us so we can have a look at what's going on with that. What state are you in, Christina? Because I don't think any state has switched from the 7811 to the 7001, but let me know what state you're in and send us an email. We'll work with you. My friend gave me her 5001 book after she took the 701 test. Can I still have access to 702? If you purchase from us, you can have access. But if your friend purchased from us, no, you have to purchase from us. But you can use the 5001 book. It works too. Okay, Christina, Kansas. Okay, yeah. So let me send us an email, Christina, and we'll work with you on that. Okay? All right. And if you purchase on Amazon, make sure you send a picture. Okay, so that concludes our webinar. Let me show you, I'm doing another webinar next week. Many of you need other stuff. So under free webinars on my website, scroll down. Today was the 7001. I'm doing PLT next week. PLT as Principles of Learning and Teaching. If you're in Texas, it's the PPR exam. It's basically the professional ed test. So if you need that, come next week. Same thing. There's a free study guide. There's a little a thing where I talk through everything. And then on the 31st, which is the last weekend of the month, I'm doing Praxis Core. Many of you have to take the Praxis Core as well. There's several different tests. So you can check those out under our free webinars, and we will also link them in the email. Remember, the online courses are here. If you need the 7001, get all subjects. Don't forget the offer code. We're going to send you that in the email. And then, of course, it's got all the videos, lots and lots of videos for every single question. Make sure you have a look at that online course. And don't forget, you get the digital study guide. So each section has its own digital study guide. It's the same as the physical. The digital and the physical are identical. Okay. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Let us know if you need anything. If you purchase the book from Amazon, email us. We cannot give you a physical book, but we can give you a digital book. So Chloe's asking if Louisiana is switching to 7001. Should I use my 501 book to study since they are similar? Yes, the 5001 and the 7001 are pretty much identical except for the teaching reading. The teaching reading is a little bit more nuanced, okay? All right. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Christina. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week for PLT. Bye.